Thank you for, can everyone hear me? You all good? Okay. Thank you for coming. This is the 7th session of the William & Mary Arts and Entertainment Conference, our 2nd annual. We're excited to have you all here. A few ground rules before we start. First, please turn off your cell phones, PDAs, iPads, laptops, whatnot. And also, please no photographs with flash or otherwise during the panel, other than the approved cameras. A little background before we begin on the William & Mary Arts and Entertainment Council. We were formed in 2011 with the goal of bringing together our alumni working in the arts, fine arts, performing arts, media, and entertainment industries with other alumni working in those industries, with students, and with the college as a whole. And this is our 2nd conference in 2 years, and hoping for many more. This session, in many ways, embodies what we aim to do. It's a liberal arts approach to the arts in many ways. Our moderator today for the session is an alumnus who is a talented sculptor, and has made a career in helping fellow artists make a career of making art. David's on the fine arts side for most of his career. Our guest today, Ms. Glenn Close, has made an exceptional career in the performing arts on stage and screen. So in many ways, this is something that we've been aiming for a while, to bring William & Mary performing fine artists, entertainers, and individuals in the media world together here on campus when possible. Now I have the pleasure to introduce Mr. David Terry, our moderator for today. David is a 1990 graduate of the college, and he is currently the Director of Programs and the Curator at the New York Foundation for the Arts, or as we call it, NYFA. At NYFA, David oversees fellowships, curatorial programs, sponsorship, and professional development programs. Before NYFA, David was the Assistant Director at the Pelham Art Center, where he directed the exhibition, educational, and outreach programs. David's career has spanned many aspects of the arts. He has had curatorial positions, artistic positions, administrative, and academic, and he is a very talented sculptor in his own right. He obviously graduated from William & Mary with a Bachelor of Arts, and also received an MFA in sculpture from the University of Pennsylvania. David is the recipient of the Alexander Rutsch Award in painting. He was an artist in the marketplace at the Bronx Museum of the Arts, and he's received the Brio Award from the Bronx Council on the Arts. So please welcome David Terry. Our guest question answerer and panelist today is someone that needs no introduction, obviously. Ms. Glenn Close is an alumnus of our fine university here from 1974, where she double majored in both theater and anthropology. While at William & Mary, she performed in numerous productions as part of William & Mary Theater, including The Common Glory, The Seagull, and Anything Goes. She is a 6-time Academy Award nominee, and her credits include, and this is a very short sampling of a very long list, but Fatal Attraction, Dangerous Liaisons, 101 Dalmatians, The Natural, Albert Nobbs, which remarkably she not only starred in, but also co-produced and co-wrote, and a favorite of mine from when I was younger, Mars Attacks. She has recently completed filming 2 independent features for those indie filmmakers that we had here earlier during the conference. One is 5 to 7, and the other is Lowdown. And for all you Marvel comic book and Marvel movie fans. She is currently filming Guardians of the Galaxy, which she will let you know when that will be in theaters near you. She's also won 3 Emmys, most recently for Damages, and 3 Tonys, an Obie, 2 Golden Globes, and a SAG, the Screen Actors Guild Award. So, without further ado, please welcome Ms. Glenn Close.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Terry, as you know, and I am very pleased and honored to be here with the very esteemed Glenn Close. I'd also like to thank Jimmy Finn and all of the Alumni Association and everyone for having me down again. I had a great time last year. So today, what we'll do is we have some beautifully crafted questions that I will read and ask Glenn how she would like to respond to really questions that are kind of geared about the industry, a little bit about her life, and about what might be important to the students here. Who really are learning about the industry and are about to make their way through it. So starting out, the craft. There are a lot of students studying theater, film, dance, and music in the audience. And for them, it's a very different world they're entering than the one you did when you graduated. Arguably, the biggest change being the opportunity of fast path to fame. Elton John has publicly said that shows like American Idol are a quick way to stardom, but not always best for learning the craft and becoming an artist. And you've been quoted as saying that celebrity is the worst thing that can happen to an actor. Why do you believe that?
I just want to, before we start, I want to acknowledge 2 people in the audience. Kay Lark, who's sitting right here, who was for 12 years my assistant and a graduate. So she has a unique perspective. And William Ivey Long, one of the great icons. Who I love and admire. So, okay. Celebrity, we're talking about celebrity.
Yes, the quick path.
Quick path.
Why is it horrible?
I think, it's interesting. When I started, people talked about wanting to act, wanting to kind of learn the craft of acting. It was a very hot thing to go to New York and to try to get work there. Now people are talking about being famous and walking on the red carpet. And what am I going to wear? And I just want to be famous. And I really think it's a sad state of affairs for our culture. I think any craft, and I have great respect for my craft as an actor, and actually actress. I'm an actress. I'm feminine. I'm not an actor. For some reason, people would now say that they call actresses actors, and I say, why? Was it supposed to be cooler to be an actor? Anyway. What was I saying? I just interrupted my own train of thought.
You're saying they just want to be famous as
a
career goal.
I think that has a lot to do with our social media. I think with television and certainly reality TV, which anybody can be famous by just eating dinner or having a fight, or and also Facebook and Twitter and all the things that now Instagram. This instant communication can do things go viral and people become famous from their living rooms. I think we're living in a totally different. I call it, it's like our nervous system. Our nervous system has changed. And who knows what that's going to do to our brains, which it will do something, but I think to be serious, to have longevity, to actually want to pump something worthwhile into your nervous system, you have to have training. I don't care. And I think even if you have all of a sudden, another thing is very hard, that if you have a success and you're very young and you just started out, it's very hard in this country to then have a failure because they think that your career is over. I remember after Jennifer Lawrence won her Oscar last year, one of the first questions was, do you think you peaked too early? She's like 21 years old. So I think we have to go back to the respect for the craft, respect for the message, respect for the collaboration that it takes to tell something that will really resonate with people. And the last thing we should be thinking about is how famous you are.
And kind of going from what you said about Florence peaking, there's another quote from Elton John where he says, many of us came up traveling in a band, playing in smoky clubs for tiny crowds, experiencing the ups and downs, having the ability to try new things and to grow into the performer or the artist that they are. How important is experimentation and those sort of trials and tribulations for young performers, young actors starting?
Well, I think it's very important. I think it's hard. If you go to New York, you're in the conundrum of a lot of shows they won't hire you if you're not in equity, and it's hard to get into equity. So I'm not even sure how they do it. You know, it's there are non-equity shows. You have to find a way. I mean, if you are serious about it, you'll find a way. You will do it. And I think that's very crucial for a lasting career. I mean, you hope that you have the talent to back up your passion. But it also, I think, in the beginning, it's resilience more than anything else. I came from 4 years of doing theater at William and Mary. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. There were many rejections, and you just can't, you have to get up. You have to get up, and you have to get up. And you have to have this weird engine that somehow what you have to offer is worthwhile. And that's a toughness that I think stands you in very good stead, because I think my profession is one of the most difficult, cruel sometimes, unforgiving, and I think it's sad that that people can get well known very fast, and then it's like, well, then what? Now what are we going to do? I would say, go and do some theater.
In 2009, you started Bring Change to Mind, an organization that aims to end the stigma and discrimination of mental illness. In a recent article, you said your portrayal of Alex Forrest in Fatal Attraction contributed to the misunderstanding of mental illness, and that you would have a different outlook on Alex today. You said, I think as public figures, as entertainers, that we have a moral responsibility to only portray characters that if they have a disruptive behavior or behavior that is negative, that it has to be responsibly explained. There's not much talk of responsibility today when it comes to actors and performers. Do actors have a responsibility beyond the pages of the lines? How can that responsibility be exercised?
That's a very good question. I think if you're just starting out, you just hope to get a job. And it can be hard to turn down a job for moral reasons or for, you can. It's not impossible. I think now you know, I'm senior enough in my career, and I've lived enough life that, and I have, my sister has bipolar illness, and my nephew has schizophrenia, so it's something in my family, and I can't responsibly be in something that I think would perpetrate this kind of stigma and misunderstanding surrounding mental illness. Alex Forrest in Fatal Attraction, she was never, her behavior was never explained. So she comes across, people call her evil. That is in many cases well, I could talk about this forever, but it's, that behavior is actually used in some schools as an extreme case of borderline personality. That's come back to me many times since I've done that. I didn't know about that when I was constructing that character. I did go to psychiatrists. And what they came up with was something which might create that kind of behavior. It might cause somebody to fall into borderline personality, but it was, there's, you know, that strange thing with her father in Fatal Attraction. She says he's alive, and you find out that he's dead, and she has a couple of lines about her, and then when she is spying on the family and the child is being given the rabbit, she goes and throws up in the hedge. And so that kind of behavior said this is a woman who was incested at a very early age, and enough to, that was basically her childhood. So that creates a kind of behavior that is textbook for what that character's behavior was. The kind of Madonna whore mentality, hating herself, not having any kind of sustaining relationship, not being able to sustain a relationship. And there's no way for me to explain that, but I acted it. And then they made her into a psychopath 6 months after we finished. Originally, she died by suicide, which would probably be the way that character would have gone, truthfully, authentically. And so for me, it was a huge crisis, a huge crisis. I didn't know how I could do that to that character. And I actually fought against it for 3 weeks. And then I was told, you know, that the movie wouldn't be released if I didn't do this movie. And so I did it under great duress. And actually that scene where I'm gouging my leg was a feeble attempt to remind the audience that she was as self-destructive as destructive. But, you know, once you put a gun in somebody's hand, that image is very hard to overcome. I'm not sure that so anyway, that all made a huge impression on me, and it was a difficult, Kay was there for the whole thing. But I mean, ironically speaking, that ending made it into a big hit. It probably would not have been the hit that it was if she had committed suicide. That's a very untidy way to end something. You want somebody to get, it's like catharsis, people want resolution. And historically speaking, in Greeks and Shakespeare, that kind of catharsis, that kind of resolution back to a sense of order in the tragedies is always achieved by the spilling of blood. So you could say that they kind of went back to that paradigm. You know, there's this person has created chaos, and in order to get resolution and a possibility of order, we have to get the blower away. But it was a tragedy for her, and it perpetrated the stigma that people who are mentally ill, because she seemed that she was mentally ill, are dangerous. You know, it's just the percentage of murders that happened, the percentage of people with mental illness is tiny compared to the overall numbers. So, you know, I mean, it was an amazing learning curve for me. Now, if I was offered the part, I think it was initially, I think I would try to get into the script something more about why of the behavior. I've turned down things just, you know, very recently because they show insanity as villain, and I just can't do that anymore. So.
That's sort of the explanation of the villain.
Yeah.
You have to have some sort of villain. Yeah. So do you think that in learning from that character and life lessons comes with the maturity of an actor, and that's where that responsibility can come into play?
Well, I wasn't even, I mean, for me, the crisis when it happened was that I thought I was portraying that character. And because she wasn't a psychopath, she was a person in great need of help. Since, I mean, one of the stories of Bring Change to Mind is that we weren't aware of mental illness in my family at all. Even though there had been suicide in my, you know, in some of the generations of my family. And my sister, if you know the early signs, you know, she could have been diagnosed when she was a teenager. So I wasn't aware myself when I filmed that, the pervasiveness of mental illness and what families are dealing with and all that. So I have a totally different perspective on that.
Mentors. Let's talk about mentors. When you were here at the college, you had an excellent mentor. Who was that?
My mentor, the picture's just out there, is Howard Scanlon. And he was he was when I was here, he was a raging alcoholic. One of my best Howard memories is him coming in to give us all our exam papers. He slapped in his sandals and his shorts, and he went to the head of the class and just threw all the papers up in the air, and they all sifted down, and he left the room waiting to go and scream. He had great training himself. He'd gone to Northwestern. I remember it was when Patricia Neal was in his class and Charlton Heston was in his class. So he really came from a great school himself. There was something about him that I was older when I was a freshman. I was 22. So and I came knowing exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I'd be able to do it, but the first production was 12th Night, and I walked straight in and I did an audition, and then I remember, it was the next week or something, or a couple of days later, I was in a lab over the science building, and we should look around the corner at Howard Scanlon, kind of looking around. He just wanted to make sure that I knew that I was called back. So that was the beginning, and I always thought it was really cool, and it's been actually solidified. It was really cool to be in a strong theater department in a liberal arts school, because somebody like Professor Scammon could recognize the seriousness of your intent, be very conscientious of what you would need to learn, made sure that you did not just starring parts, but supporting parts, that you painted scenery, that you did costumes, that you didn't get a big head. That was really important to him. But it also, I think, what really helped is that you had kids who were there just because they wanted it. They wanted to have the experience of doing a play in college. And I think that really kept everything at a wonderful level. And they had very high standards. It practice. We put on some shows that I think I'd probably be proud of today. And it was my real training, and I thought that if I'd gone to Yale, or if I'd gone to ACT, or Carnegie Tech, or one of those schools, that they somehow knew secrets that I didn't. Well, I've learned in my career that's not true. You know, there are no secrets like that. It's either you have the ability to fill a role, or you don't, and there can come from all of that training. Isn't specialized in those schools. And I've done some shows. One show I did in one of the supporting roles was a recent graduate from Juilliard who actually ended up being fired because he couldn't take direction. And I think of him a lot, because I think, what happened to him? What a terrible thing to happen. But it was true. And you think, what did you learn? But anyway, I can't, not to cloud Juilliard. Juilliard is a magnificent school, but it made me realize that what I learned at William & Mary was just as great as whatever people are learning in any of those other schools.
Have you had mentors throughout your career, be it directors or writers?
Well, not like Howard, who continued to see my shows and would send me notes. He would do he actually, for every show, he would send me a Jefferson cup with the name of the production and the name of the character. So I have a great collection of those. He was my mentor and my guardian angel. And I think I was incredibly blessed to have that. But he didn't treat me any differently than anyone else, I have to say. You know, he was, that would have been unbearable to everyone else around us. But that's what I loved about him. I remember he came up to me once and he looked at me, go like this and said, just remember, you're a big fish in a very little pond.
One of your recent film projects was Albert Nobbs. A great deal has been made about the gender-related aspects of the film, the fact that you played a woman disguised as a man. But what made the particular interest in this audience today is your involvement behind the camera. In addition to performing the lead role, you also co-wrote and co-produced the film. What were the challenges you had wearing these three hats, and how did you approach them?
Oh, boy. Well, the definition of the independent film in my mind is a film that almost doesn't get made. I don't think it's a truly independent film if it's easy to make. There are usually films that can't be categorized, that are not the kind of stuff certainly is coming out of Hollywood now. And it took me 14 years to do Albert Nobbs. I'd done it on stage, literally in the 80s. Beginning of my career, and off-Broadway. And when I started producing in the early 90s, it's a story that really stayed with me. I thought the character was fascinating because she wasn't transgender, she wasn't a lesbian, she was an innocent who was using the disguises of male in order to survive. And what I think that story, well, there are many aspects to that story that I really love. I think there's something incredibly compelling about a character who believes in something so strongly that, well, in her case, it leads to her death almost. I mean, and there's something, even though you kind of think there's no way she can achieve her dream, and yet to watch somebody believe that much, it always is incredibly moving to me, without any self-pity, is also very important. And what I thought was important to try to create in that movie is to have moments where gender didn't apply. because when you think about the human spirit and all the great capacity that we have as human beings, gender really shouldn't come into it. And I think there's some scenes in Albert Nobbs, especially in the home with Hubert Page and his wife, and Albert, where you do forget what they are. They're just human beings. And so I always thought it was a really powerful story. I mean, again, I could write a book about getting it made. I had a brilliant co-producer, my two brilliant ones, but Bonnie Curtis, who had been, her talents were honed by Steven Spielberg. She was Spielberg's assistant for many years and then became one of his associate producers. So she knew her stuff. She's from Texas, and somebody asked her once, "How did you get these skills of producers?" She said, "Born with it." So when we would reach a dead end, she'd come up with, "I have an idea. I have an epiphany." And the thing that really started on us on our road was one of her epiphanies, remembering that her aunt and uncle had a house that is modeled after Mount Vernon down in Dallas. And people always want to see the house. So she said, let's pick out some key couples that they have access to and make up a business plan for Albert Nobbs. Let's have a dinner, and we'll invite these people. And then she said, can you do something? Do something. I said, well, okay, what can I? Okay, I'll sing something. That was so funny. We were so desperate. So I smuggled in Paul Boguet, who was the conductor for Sunset Boulevard, and after dinner, they knew why they were there, and we had a great time. They were interesting people, and I got up and said, well, thank you. I hope you can join us on this journey, and I can only do what I can do for you, and thank you for being here. So I sang something from Sunset Boulevard, and then I sang Cockeyed Optimist. And for some reason, the guy John Goff, who was sitting next to me, he ended up giving us $1.5 million. And he had never done anything creatively like that. And that was so exciting to me. Here he is, a billionaire in real estate. He didn't want to do it. So we had fun because we invited them to come to our William knows that we have, what are we going to look like? So we had this day-long session out in Los Angeles with Matthew Mungle, who was a genius special effects artist, and Marcel Conville, who's been my wig maker, hairdresser for practically my entire career. And these two people from Texas, and I think they brought two friends, watched us figure out these two characters. And they were stunned. They came back saying, we didn't know. The rigor, the artistry, the thought, the detail, And so that was, it was as exciting for us to kind of bring them into our world as it was, to get their money, frankly. But, this is something, you're always told, don't ever invest yourself. Don't ever invest yourself. And when it came to Albert Nobbs, I couldn't quite understand that. So I said, how can I ask somebody like John Goff to give me money if I haven't put in my own money in? And I learned the term skin in the game, which I think is a business term, right? So, of course, he said, do you have skin in the game? And we just sold an apartment in New York. It was a very good investment. And I basically put what I made from that sale into Albert Nobbs. So I was able to say to people like John Goff, yeah, that's and then we got, I won't go to who all invested in it, but oh my gosh, what a journey. Not one penny from Hollywood, not one penny from an independent film studio. It was a weird story. And it was frustrating because you felt that if they saw it, they'd get it. But how are you going to, make something that people can see? But then it took on a life of its own. And I think the story was really strong. And actors started coming, as they will. And some of them were my friends. I called up Johnny Rhys Meyers out of the room, say, will you play this little cameo part? And he said, I'll be there. And you kind of go, okay. Especially guys. You know. You can say I'll be there, and you think, okay. You're not the star. We'll see. You're not. You showed up. You showed up twice. And so there was a great deal of love and goodwill and huge. Patricia Bronzenstein, one of the great production designers, did it, and oh my gosh, she loved it. It's all about different colors of green. Islands full of different colors of green. She was so proud of the color of the old green door when Albert looks into the shop and sees the door open. So it's just that kind of, it was thrilling. You know, just this.
After many years in theater and film, you moved back into television, first with appearances on The Shield, and then in your own series, Damages. As recently as a few years ago, going from films to the small screen was a rare occurrence for accomplished actors and actresses. But today, TV is being referred to by many as a true form and home of great storytelling. Shows like Downton Abbey, Breaking Bad, House of Cards are all both critically acclaimed and commercially successful. All the while, there have been some immense box office flops. Do you think television is replacing film as a medium for great characters to evolve?
I think in many ways it is. I think that television and independent film. I mean, every now and then they'll become a studio film, I suppose, with good characters, but it's they like more the tentpole things. They can have Mission Impossible 6, Iron Man 5, which is great for those actors. And I'm so thrilled to be in Guardians of the Galaxy. I always wanted to be in a movie like that. But the question was, TV? Yes,
Potentially replacing.
Yeah. I mean, when I did something about Amelia, which must have been in like 83, 82, or when you were born. I was told by my agent that it would ruin my movie career. And it was an incredibly well-written script. And I thought, well, why do the English do it all? They do stage and they do movies and they do television. All the great English actors do that. Why can't we? So that's always been my answer. I care about what's on the page. I have huge respect for television because the potential audience. But when I started, the best place, the place for kind of quality television was Hallmark Hall of Fame, where we produced the Sarah Plain and Paul series. HBO didn't exist. I remember meeting in Orson, in New York, Colin Calladue came over to head up HBO. And I guess, I can't remember, was Sopranos their first TV? I can't remember, but it modeled on the BBC, the kind of things like Upstairs, Downstairs that had been produced on the BBC, played on public television here. But that was the beginning of a real, the creation of cable television that had substantive roles. And then it was just really a matter of time for people to cross over. And I remember, this sounds like I was really snobbish, but I remember going to the Emmys and thinking, what am I doing here? Who are all these people? And now the Emmys and the Oscars are like exactly the same, which is fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. I honestly feel that cable television and those incredible long-form dramas, I think there are modern Dickens. I think they're a bona fide new art form. And they're very exciting writers and incredibly exciting directors. And I think why it's been so popular is that the writer is king on television. In film, the producer is king, and writers get beaten up. And a lot of writers, wonderful writers, lose hope because they watch their scripts get, eviscerated, and there's nothing they can do about it. but on television and well, on cable, and on the good, yeah, the runner, the head runner, who's the head writer, and they have the power. I mean, they have to duke it out with the studios, whether it's FX or Sony or whatever. But basically, it's the writer who's king.
You were talking about crossing over, and you're obviously immensely well known for your dramatic roles, but you also do comedy. And Mars Attacks, 101 Dalmatians, 2 stints on Saturday Night Live. Was comedy difficult for you? Was it just in your cachet? Is it about being cross-disciplinarily efficient? Do you find it a challenge?
I think comedy is hard. I get really nervous when I know that I'm supposed to be funny. I'm really self-conscious. So, but real comedy, I mean, unless you're a stand-up comic, which is a whole different breed, I think, but I think the best comedy are people who just are very seriously playing their part and they have to be funny. You know, and if you think of you know, a lot of our comic actors, they're playing a part. For me, Cruella, I really studied the original cartoon or animated feature, which was brilliant, a brilliant voiceover of a very scary character who said terrible things. Chloroform them, drown them. That was the animated feature. And then I was working with a vocal coach, and we decided that what is that wonderful actress in Absolutely Fabulous? Joanna Lumley in Absolutely Fabulous. She talked really cute. And then also my friend Tara and they have these explosive consonants and D's and T's and Tipton. So that's kind of what we worked on. And also the nastier she was, the funnier it was. And scarier to kids. I once a little girl came up to me with her mother, this was a number of years ago, kind of connected because her mother said, "That's my mom." So this little girl was going like this, and I was dressed like an Angels and a blazer or something. I said,
So now we're going to actually open up the floor for questions of Ms. Close or Cruella. So I believe someone has a microphone, so if you could raise your hand if you have a question.
oh, I've obviously had a huge effect on you.
Hi, I'm Tammy Ambrose. My son goes here. So thrilled. I even brought my Fatal Attraction. I've just been such a fan, and you are so talented. And I have a couple of things to ask. One, you have made such worthwhile films. You really share with so many people. Do you have favorite actors and actresses that you've worked with throughout your career?
You know, it's really the truth. It sounds so hokey, but I end up really enjoying whoever I'm working with. It's very, very rare for me that I don't like somebody I'm working with. Because it's such a collaborative art, you know, and I've been very lucky to work with wonderful people. I think it's hard for me to like the whole.
Well, I love Ted Danson and you in Damages. I just think that was so excellent. And you talk about, you know, your care about, and I think it's so important what you say about, you know, mental illness. But what you're dealing with Damages, you're also taking on some of the issues. Do you find that, do you have any input as far as the writing, taking on, you know, the Madoff scandal and mercenaries and things, do you find that you really look forward to what's going to happen next?
Yeah, that was one of the things that I loved the most. It was very hard for me to adjust to being in something that had no ending. I didn't, you know, usually I'm used to working on something that I know the beginning, the middle, and the end. And you kind of chart the emotional journey, and you make up your, you know, the certain, you kind of fill up your imagination with things that maybe this character had gone through, that you inform behavior, nobody used to know about it, and all that kind of thing. But with Patty Hughes, I didn't know where she came from. I didn't know how the story was going to end, and it really bothered me in the beginning. And I go to our writers and I say, "Can't I write my backstory? I could write my back." They said, "No." I can't write your backstory. Don't worry about it, you know. So you know, in the pilot, there was a scene where Patty's signing papers at her son's school, and the Ellen Parsons, the Rose Byrne character, comes, and Patty had this great speech about how don't ever have children; they'll ruin your ambition. And it was really beautifully written and kind of honest. But I realized that the key to Patty was, by the end of this speech, Ellen should not know if she was telling the truth or not. She always will do something that somebody goes, you know, to keep people off balance. So she might be telling the truth, but you don't know it. Or she's not telling the truth and you think it's the truth. So that was key for me. And the writers were incredibly collaborative. I love that as well. It's even sometimes, because you have to learn lines very fast. And I learned to score out all the stage directions, because your mind will actually register that there's a line there, but it's not something you speak, and so you'll kind of have a little blip. So, but if you cross it all out, you can kind of scan the page, and the page in some way stays in your mind until it's assimilated. That helped me. And sometimes it was, you know, even with how words are put, and the order of words can be kind of, you know, not something that kind of just trips off your tongue, and then you know, we talk about that and usually fix it. I try to memorize it, and if I couldn't, I'd say, you know what, I think maybe is there another way to say this? And also some of the character stuff. They just were incredibly collaborative. There were 3 of them, and they were wonderful. And they all became very good directors as well.
Any other questions from students, perhaps?
Speaking as somebody who would like to be a screenwriter one day, I mean, okay, the words aren't coming out right, I'm sorry. Do you have any, like, do you have anything you look for in a script? What part of writing is most important to you? This is sounding really lame, but
you know what, I should try to kind of come out with something articulate about that, because I do get very strong, it's like blink reactions to a script, whatever that is when you're reading. And for me, I think it has to do with authenticity. It feels like it's dialogue that can come out of people's mouth. Also, a certain spareness that allows, it's not everything is said, not everything's on the nose, that you have room for mystery, you have room for the actor to bring something to it. So, I mean, the only word I can think of it is kind of an elegance, but that's not helpful.
But more the writing style than the storyline, per se.
Well, I mean, not necessarily, because if it's a Victorian piece, then it's a different kind of style than if it's a big show. I think it's just,
Or an artistic connection to...
yeah,
question? On this side?
Yeah, I have a question about your time here. Did you happen to do the William Mary Triathlon?
What is the William and Mary Triathlon?
I never did.
What is it? How is it?
You have to streak the Sun Gardens, swim the Camille, and jump the Governor's Wall.
Street
Streak the Sun Gardens,
and
swim the Cremdale, and jump the Governor's Wall. You can do it tonight.
I wouldn't. I can see in that order. Whatever. Have you seen
Not
them
in
out
order.
are full of scum in it?
That's what I saw.
Or shall I say algae? No, thank gosh, I never had to do that.
Let's take a question on this side.
Hi. My name is Marvin Shelton. I'm kind of like shaky because I'm like starstruck right now. You're just divine, may I say. I wanted to ask, I'm so interested in this idea behind method acting. You know, we see these stars like Christian Bale. That's the only one I can think of right now. But we see so many stars and actors talk about method acting and how important it is to a role. And I'm interested to see what your take is on method acting, because I know, personally, I think about living in the moment when I think about acting and living authentically in that moment. And I don't know if you might think that method acting is damaging to a person's personal life. How do you feel about that blend of personal and then the professional life of acting? And as well, I don't know where I'm going with this, but there we go.
Method acting. I have a very subjective answer to that. I was once in a production of Streetcar Named Desire with Shirley Knight, who I loved, but she was a method actor. And she would go off before rehearsal, which was fine, and come in and rehearse. But during production, or during performance, she could kind of move around and do different things. But if you did anything different, she would forget her lines. So it's like, I remember once I did something and she's in the play, she said, "Are you really going to do that?" So I was a little confused about what method acting, actually was. And then I went in with once into the actor's studio, and this is not it's very subjective. And I thought it was pretty sycophantic. I think of acting as a huge act of imagination. I mean, bringing in, if you're lucky to have some sort of personal experience that can bring you closer to a role. But to me, the fun, the play part, is to actually be able to put yourself in that person's shoes and think in the moment. You keep kind of deconstructing until you can do something natural, But and to overthink things, I think could be difficult. But that's if it's great for somebody, that's great. Bill Hurt was a guest. I knew it was a good show, and we came to do a season on Damaging. He was miserable because we worked so fast, and he was used to preparing and having a script, not change the night before or the day of. And you know what? He had every right to feel that way. I kept saying, Bill, this is the process now, here. Go with it. And he never liked it, and that was him. It was hard for him, and I understood that. So I think it's not for me. I saw the recent production of, what was it? Glengarry Glen Ross, the Pacino. Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah. And he was different from everyone else. In a way.
Another planet.
Another planet. I know Bobby Cannavale, he was, Mamet himself says it has to be quick, fast. And it would come to Pacino, his method, and it would just... In some ways, it really worked. I mean, he talked to the audience, he certainly got your attention, and you know, you didn't know that that might not have been in Mamet's mind, but then in Pacino's mind is, so what? You know, this is the way I'm going to do it, and I think in many ways it worked. It might have been frustrating for his fellow actors because they might have had something else in mind. So what I'm saying is it's collaborative. And for me, it was not, it was, I really liked it. I really loved it. But I could understand how it might be frustrating, you know, for the actors. And that's an experience, you know. I'm hoping I'm going to do something with Pacino. I'm really interested. Let's see.
You have a question? Yeah.
Hi. That didn't sound like me, it was disorienting. I really loved Cookie's Fortune. I was just wondering how you came to be a part of that, and particularly what you think of Camille and what happens to her after we see her last.
And for those of you who don't know Cookie's Fortune, it's a Robert Altman film. It's the only Robert Altman film I was ever in. It was a wonderful experience, and I played this, I don't know how to explain her. Controlling little town theater person. How did I come to it? Altman asked me to do it. Altman, believe it or not, always had a hard time raising money. He was not a studio guy. And so for me, I'm not stupid. I know that people will come to me, and they have, and I hope they always will, to help finance their films. Because if I hear someone's in it, and I want to be in it, and somebody else wants to be in it, all of a sudden you have a really fun company of actors. And that's how a lot of these, it certainly was how Albert Nobbs got cast. And thank God that actors are generous in that way, if they like, it's a good story. It's an interesting thing. It's a hard, if you don't know the story, but Camille ends up in jail. And I had one disagreement with Altman, in that the last time you see Camille in jail, you think she's gone over the edge, right? If I can remember correctly. And then she buries her head in the pillow as if she's trying to smother herself. And I wanted to end it with a laugh, so that the audience would know that she's just, she's joking. She's not really seriously trying to smother herself. And he didn't put the laugh in. And I always thought I'd been better with the laugh. I think it's one of the last things you see in the movie. He was an amazing person to watch. Altman. He loved to include everybody. He went and saw everybody's housing. We all stayed in local housing to save money. And he went to make sure that every actor had a nice place to stay. He loved you to watch dailies with him. He always had food served. Was not scared of people's opinions. But I think the thing that made me really love him was Patricia Neal. I don't know if you all know who she is, but she was a very beautiful actress, and she had a stroke. She was married to Roald Dahl, and she had a stroke, and she was in Cookie's Fortune, and she talked very slowly, very slowly, and she had to have a ear thing and have her lines fed to her. So it took a long time for her to do a scene. And there was a scene where she started at her bed, and she got up. No, she started sitting at a little dressing table with all the jewels that her husband gave her. She went up to the fireplace, the mantelpiece, and looked at his picture and said, "Oh," I forget his name. Anyway, and she went to her bed, got a gun out from the drawer, put a pillow over her head, and shot herself. That was one whole take. And so she did it, and the first thing she said was, darling, I love you so much, as she was looking at the jewels. And then she did the thing, she went around, took a picture, around the bed, the pillow and thing. And then she took something and said, I don't know if when I should say my line. Do you think I should say my line when I'm at the Jewels, or do you think I should say the line when I'm at the mantelpiece? And instead of going, oh, Pat, you know, okay, at the mantelpiece, that's, you know, Pat, I think you should do it. He said, I don't know, darling, why don't you do it again and see what you feel? And I thought it was one of the most wonderful things to give her the respect of her art and her figuring out herself. She ended up doing it at the mantelpiece of his picture, and she figured it out herself. And I just, you know, it's a tiny little thing, but I've never forgotten it, because he could easily have said, you know, why don't you do it to this picture at the mantelpiece? She said, oh, all right. But instead, he gave her the opportunity to figure it out herself as long as it took.
Hello, Ms. Close. Our convocation speaker this year, Nancy Gunn, was a TV producer, and she was telling us a lot about being a woman in the industry and having a lot of challenges as a woman, trying to balance personal and professional life. And I was wondering, you've had such a wonderful, long career. How have you sustained that? And what challenges have you found being a woman in this industry?
Frankly, I think it's been more challenging for me to in my private life than it has been in my acting. I mean, to me, acting that's easy. You have a job, you've got lines, you have to show up at a certain time, and everything is, you know, organized for you, described. It's balancing your life that I think is more difficult. And for a long time, until I married my husband, who's here, I was basically a single parent. And so I had a little girl, luckily able to afford help. And so we had Kay, you know, after Kay, another assistant. But so we had this little unit, you know. And it's, you know, for a little child, she can go with you for a long time. And then she had her own things at school, you know, around 4th grade. I think she was in 4th grade when we did Kirby's Fortune, and I got a tutor, and she had finished school down in Mississippi to do that. But after that, you know, there's you know, the track and soccer club, and there's, you know, her friends and all that. You can't take her away from that. And then it's always with, Mom, when are you going to come home? You know? And so it's hard. And the reason why I didn't do another season of The Shield was that Annie was going to be a senior in high school, and they shot it in California, so I just can't do it. And when we did Sunset Boulevard, which I just absolutely loved doing, she turned 5, I think, when we did it. She turned 5 in California, and she was very much a part of backstage, and you know, she's just like a little mascot. She was going to kindergarten at the time. And then we got home and we're doing it in New York, and she turned 6, and she was in, you know, was she kindergarten or nursery school? Yeah, I think she was in 1st grade. No, she must have been in kindergarten. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But one day I said, Annie, could you see whether the car's here to get me? And she looked out the window and she said, no. And I looked out and there was the car. So I thought, okay, that's not good. I think it's, I think I was blessed by who she is. She's a wonderful, wonderful girl. But she will say that it's tricky. It's tricky growing up with a famous person as a parent. And but she's an old soul, and she's fierce and fabulous. She teaches me something every day. I just like yeah, but I think that's the hardest thing for me. Very hard to keep relationships because you're going away for work all the time. And a lot of people don't understand you know, that you're pretending that you're in love with somebody. People can be very threatened by that. A lot of men feel uncomfortable with successful women. You know, I think It's just the nature of the species. And you just hope you can find somebody who can understand and let you be who you are and who he is. And, you know, it's got to work out.
There's a question way in the back.
Hello, Ms. Close. Thank you so much for being here. As a student myself of both theater and a non-performance discipline, I was wondering how your education here at William & Mary in the non-theater world has helped you in your career.
By seeming more intelligent. Able to talk to people about things other than theater. And actually having a genuine curiosity about biology still, about philosophy, about, you know, oh gosh, I love biology and anthropology. It just, I think the great gift of a strong liberal arts education is that it keeps you curious. And I think curiosity keeps you interested, you know, keeps you probably younger, too.
Any question over here?
Hi, Ms. Close. My name is Ariel Cohen. I write for the Flat Hat. So you came to William & Mary as a bit of an older student, and you mentioned being a big fish in a small pond. So I guess I'm wondering, what exactly made you choose William & Mary, and what about the theater department here uniquely prepared you for your career going forward?
Well, that's opening a big can of worms. I'll just put the first twist on it. When I was 7, my parents got into what you could call as a cult group. And I was in that cult group until I came to William & Mary as a 22-year-old. And there was a part of that life where I was in a singing group, going all around the country, you know, spreading the message. And William & Mary was one of the campuses that we came to. And we would run off our buses and set up our things and we'd sing and sing. And, you know, and I remember at William & Mary, the students were... And I said, that's where I want to go to school.
I think we could take one more question.
Hello, my name is Kaliska Wiley. I'm 13 years old, and I want to be a movie director when I grow up. And I was wondering if you have any advice for me.
You're 13?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Start making movies on your iPhone.
Does that help?
Really? My husband and I, we were given this award up at Manning for creativity, and so we said, don't make a video about us, we'll make a video about the people we think are most creative and why, and we did it all on our iPhone. So if you want to direct, start now. There's stories to tell. There's no reason to wait.
Testing.
And then you can learn how to, who said that? Mr. Scammon. Yeah, so I just start telling stories, and you can learn how to edit and, you know, do it.
Before we let you go, I'm wondering if there's a bit of advice or words that you've used to sort of maintain your career and keep yourself motivated and energized that you could impart upon students here.
Eat 2 Oreos a week. And have a dog.
Well, thank you so much.
Mr. Ivanov, one of our great costume designers, has just reminded me to mention that there is now an exhibition at the Muscarelli Museum of some of my costumes. And I can't tell you how thrilling it is for me to be able to share them with you. And Chuck Thomas is right there, who helped to make it happen. Thank you so much, Chuck. And